Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are having a great day here. We are in the middle of New Orleans in a hotel room. But, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready for some NFL Sunday action? I am super excited to hop on here with you guys. Just give me a few moments and I'm going to get the X plugged in our Discord and we will get hopping right into it. First, we're talking about Cowboys versus Jets. Give me 1 second, guys. I am almost ready to get started here. Let me share this out. Copy link. Doink. NFL. And paste. Okay, let's get started with Cowboys versus Jets. For this game, I want to talk about just how bad the defenses are. So let's go to the sides tab up there at the top of the Doink Sports website, and let's look at both of these defenses. The Jets are letting up damn near 30 points per game right now. Meanwhile, the Cowboys are also giving up over 30 points per game. I mean, they allowed 31 to Chicago, 24 to the Eagles. They even allowed the Giants to score 37 on them in an OT thriller, not to mention the showdown on Sunday Night Football, 40-40 tie last week versus the Packers. Now, what I see here is a Cowboys defense that's missing Micah Parsons. What they have struggled thoroughly with is getting pressure on the quarterback. Meanwhile, the Jets, in my opinion, are slightly incrementally improving. As you see, they allowed 34 points to the Steelers, 30 to the Bills, 29 to the Buccaneers, and 27 to the Dolphins. But I don't think that they're ready for this onslaught that is Dak Prescott. I am thoroughly of the belief that the Cowboys are here to get the job done on the road. That tie last week was not satisfying enough. Micah Parsons came into town. He only got one kind of sack, in my opinion. I don't know if I would count that as a full sack, but regardless, they're looking to get back into the win column. I think the playoffs are starting to become a major conversation there in Dallas, and whether or not the Cowboys are even going to compete for them. Meanwhile, the Jets, well, it just looks like the same old Jets. The offense was rolling last week, in my opinion, versus the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football, but turnover after turnover after turnover. I'm sorry, not Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football. The turnovers were the main problem there and the reason that the Jets could not win that game. I actually had them going over 20.5 points. They score that late touchdown. I think they had to go for two to get the 21 points, but I'm super excited about what this Jets offense looks like with Justin Fields. So first up, let's go to the player props section up at the top here, and we will look at two different props. Number one, Justin Fields. We're going to look at his passing yards, and I think this is going to be a major get back, get right game for Justin Fields, and it's because the Cowboys defense is god awful. Now, he's hit this line comfortably in 2 games that he's started. He got hurt in the Buffalo game. He missed the game versus the Buccaneers, but against Pittsburgh and against Miami, he easily went over this line. Now, the Jets wide receiver core is not great, but I am in full belief that Garrett Wilson is that guy. So one thing that I'm going to look at here is Justin Fields 187.5 under his pass yards tab. Okay. Full disclosure, guys, we're having some technical difficulties today. My wife is actually on this the stream here. She's going to be managing our tabs on the Doink Sports website. Megan, if you wouldn't mind hitting where it says 187.5 under the pass yards tab under Justin Fields there. If you move the mouse down just a little bit and go to the pass yards where you see just right under that pass yards. Yep. And then where it says 187 directly below that. Yes. Click that and scroll down just a little bit. Excellent. Okay, we're going to be looking at Justin Fields. If you want to hit that right arrow on that same line there. Yes, perfect. We're going to be looking at Justin Fields over 209 plus 154, I believe. Let me full screen this so I'm sure that I've got this correct. Yes, plus 154 over 209. That's what we'll be taking today. I think Justin Fields clears this line easily. The Cowboys' defense is god awful. Quarterbacks have come in and tore them up. Russell Wilson went for 450. Caleb Williams went for damn near 300. And then Jordan Love last week, 337, 3 touchdowns. I think Justin Fields at home where he feels comfortable is going to definitely get this job done. Now, if we'll go to the next tab here and go to Garrett Wilson on this, if you want to control F that real quick. And we're going to pair that with Garrett Wilson over 65.5 receiving yards. Justin Fields, when he plays and Garrett Wilson is active versus Pittsburgh and versus Miami, that easily goes over that 65.5. Now, the Cowboys defense has been fairly decent against wide receiver ones, but in this Jets wide receiver room, I don't think there's any other option majorly other than Garrett Wilson. And so if I'm in full belief that Justin Fields is going to succeed, it's going to be at the hands of Garrett Wilson. Those two guys are going to get the job done for the Jets. I think they are going to outright win this game, but that's where I'm going to continue and talk about my anytime touchdown. So if we can go up here to this touchdowns tab at the top, and we're going, and by the way, if you guys have any questions about any touchdown props that you'd like to look at, I am more than happy to do that as well. But the 2 touchdown plays that I'm looking at today is first Javonte Williams. Anytime touchdown. I believe it's minus 118 on PrizePicks. That's correct. The Cowboys are giving him the ball in the red zone 60% of the time in the run game. And then I believe they're also, if we want to scroll down just a little bit, not a ton. Right there. That's perfect. They're also giving him 14% of the red zone targets in the receiving game. And so the Jets are middle of the pack in terms of allowing touchdowns to running backs, but they're also middle of the pack in allowing receiving touchdowns to running back. Overall, they are one of the worst teams against the run so far this season. And I think Javonte Williams, who's been by far the bell cow back for Dallas, it's going to be an anytime touchdown today for him because quite frankly, outside of George Pickens, there's not any other major threats now that CeeDee Lamb is injured. So that's my first anytime touchdown pick. If we want to scroll down to the Jets a little further down, yes, let's talk about Justin Fields anytime touchdown. He's played in 2 games fully healthy. I believe he scored 2 touchdowns there for the Jets in both of those games. I fully believe that he's back in full repair or full action here for the Jets versus the Cowboys. They've allowed half a touchdown per game to quarterbacks on the run. That's why I am in full belief that the Cowboys are going to give up yet another one. Justin Fields is a major part of the red zone run game. Oh, sorry, I'm getting some feedback that I sound a little rough. I hope that's better. But Justin Fields, he is a major factor in the red zone run game. As you can see, he leads the Jets in red zone rush attempts, and he gets a vast majority, well, not majority, but he gets the most red zone run share, and he has scored a touchdown in all 3 games, or maybe 2 of the 3 games that he's played in. He's definitely scored a touchdown in the 2 games that he started and finished. So those are the 2 anytime touchdown plays that I like. Let's go to team props tab there at the top, and we'll talk about who I like for the over and under on team props. Now, the Cowboys sitting at 24.5. That's a little rough to me. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Like I said, the Jets defense is incrementally improving over their first 4 games, allowing 34, 30, 29, 27. I definitely think that the Cowboys can put up over 24, but would I be shocked to see they score under 24.5? Absolutely not. So let's scroll down. I want to talk about the one prop that I do like, and that is the New York Jets over 23 and a half points. That's where I'm looking at for this game. I definitely think they'll be going well over this 23 and a half. This Cowboys defense is horrendous, guys. Look at how many points they're allowing. And quite frankly, it's getting worse. They had 24 allowed to the Eagles in week one, 37 against the Giants, 31 against the Bears, and then 40 against the Packers. I am in full belief that the Jets are going to go over this. I also think they're going to win, but I'm not going to make that an official pick just because they are the Jets, Jets. They're a god-awful franchise. They have been cursed. And so I do not like looking at that line and thinking, yes, that is something that I want to take. So those are all my picks for this game. We've got Justin Fields, anytime touchdown, Javonte Williams, anytime touchdown, the Jets over 23 and a half points, Justin Fields over 209 passing, and Garrett Wilson over 65 and a half receiving yards. Let's move on, and we will talk about Texans versus Ravens, which is the next game down on the Doink Sports tab there. Yes. So then first, let's go to player props. There are a few player props that I like for this game. Number one, it's going to be Justice Hill over 2.5 receptions. And there he is. Ladies and gentlemen, he's hit this in the last 3 games, and the Ravens are making him a focal point of the receiving game. As you can see here, his target share has increased game after game. Now, a lot of this has to do with a combination of the Ravens being down big in some of these games and Derrick Henry's injury. So as you can see, the target share has increased from 2 to 3, 4, 5, or 4 to 6. And his receptions obviously are going up as well. I definitely think that the Ravens are going to have to use him today in the pass game. I believe that line there, if I stand corrected, is at plus 109. I love plus money plays. That's where the value is, in my opinion. I like this line. Because actually, if we can go to the injuries tab real quick there at the top, there is going to be an onslaught of Ravens that are out for this game. Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson is out. Cooper Rush will be getting the start today. They're missing multiple defensive players, including I believe Roquan Smith. Yeah, Roquan Smith is out. Patrick Ricard, their major fullback over the last few years, is out. Their star defensive tackle, who was playing at an all-pro level, he's going to be out today as well. I don't think the Ravens really stand a chance in this game. I know it's at home. I know the Texans have been awful, but I fully expect them to be playing significantly worse than they have over the last few weeks. And quite frankly, that's been bad as well. Now, they have played some major contenders, but the Texans' offense looked like they had a get-right game versus the Titans last week, and I quite frankly think that C.J. Stroud is going to be able to get the job done. So let's go back to the touchdowns tab before we move on. And the one guy that I want to talk about anytime touchdown-wise is Woody Marks, who has finally started to take over as RB1 with the Texans. Last week he had 17 carries. He scored a touchdown. I think he scored multiple touchdowns last week. Red zone run share, that number for Woody Marks is sitting at 33. Ladies and gentlemen, before last week, that number was sitting at, I believe, 16 and a half. So he's doubled that in just 1 week. I fully think that he's taken over the RB1 job here. He might not actually start, but he'll be getting a fair share of touches here. And so I think anytime touchdown-wise, his value sitting at plus 176 is great value in my opinion. He also receives 12.5% of the red zone receiving game target share-wise. And so I look at Nick Chubb, and I see that he's at plus 320. While I do think that that is valuable, we can see that Woody Marks has scored more touchdowns on the season than Chubb. And since his value is at plus 176, it's less than half of what Nick Chubb's value is. If Nick Chubb was up at plus 400, that's the anytime touchdown play I would tell you to go with. But value-wise, guys, talking about leveraging and whatnot, it's definitely smart, in my opinion, to go with Woody Marks. Now, I'm learning all of this and leveraging and educating myself using the Doink Sports website here. Go check out doinksports.com for yourselves, guys. Use my code here at the bottom, Plizont. That's Plizont for 25% off of any package of your choosing. It's a great website. You can look at some of the major games here today for free, I believe. So if you look at the product, you like it, and you're willing to do something else and purchase a subscription, be sure to use my code. The 25% off, it goes a long way. So that being said, let's continue to talk. There are two props that I like for this game, team props wise. If we can go to the team props tab here at the top. Number one, the Ravens under 20.5 points. I would take that all the way down to 18.5. I don't think that actually, you know what? I would take that down to 17.5. You could definitely get that massive plus money play. The Texans defense, if you don't mind scrolling down here for just a second to the Ravens tab, yes, that's better. The Ravens have obviously scored a good amount of points so far this season, but that's with a lot of their players healthy. And the Ravens this week are not healthy at all. Cooper Rush is back there. The offense, quite frankly, looks completely different. The game plan will be different. And the Texans defense has been one of the best in the league to start this year. The most they've given up is a Tampa Bay offense, who I think is elite, a top 10 offense in the league. They only allowed 20 points. I definitely think this game is going under 40.5 points, but my official pick here is alt line Baltimore Ravens under 17.5 points. You can get that plus money. And then the next thing that I want to take, if we can scroll back up to the Ravens and Texans offense and defense, the Ravens defense has been awful. Like I said, the Texans offense had a get right game. And so I'm looking alt play to take the Texans over 23.5 points, as well as Texans minus 2.5 for a plus money play as well. I know that people think that this game might be close, but considering that the Houston Texans are almost a fully healthy team and the Ravens are completely shot, I know that people think that John Harbaugh is going to be able to get the troops riled up for this game. I just significantly doubt it. Not only are the Ravens significantly injured, but they're also 1-3, and they've had some terrible losses. The Bills' loss was so debilitating. That fumble by Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter ruined any chance of the Ravens, in my opinion, having Lamar compete for the MVP. That being said, I definitely think when we're looking at what we see here, we see a Texans team trying to get right with an elite defense and a Ravens team that struggled on both sides of the football recently and have tons of injuries. I definitely think this game is going under 40.5, and it's because the Texans might pitch a shutout while the Ravens allow the Texans to score a good amount of points. So those are my 5 props for the game. Justice Hill over 2.5 receptions. Woody Marks anytime touchdowns. Texans minus 2.5. Texans over 23.5. Ravens under 18.5. These are going to be, in my opinion, some of the most valuable plays that you can get here. They're all plus money plays, I believe. So let's move on, and now we'll talk about, I believe, Giants at Saints, which is the next game down. Yep, that's right. First of all, this is another toilet bowl game. In terms of NFL action, there really aren't that many games that strike my fancy. Not a lot of divisional rivalries, not a ton of games where I'm just like, whoa, we got to watch that. Meanwhile, guys, by the way, Vikings versus Browns is live. Another game where, are we really watching anything of note? Not really. I think it's Carson Wentz versus I think it's Dylan Gabriel this morning. So once again, nothing really right home about there. There are just a few plays that I like in this Giants-Saints game. It's hard to get a read. Jackson Dart last week had a massive game running the football with Cam Scatterbo. Those guys turned into a dynamic duo. But now that the RPO type stuff is on tape, I definitely think we have the game script here for the Giants. And the Saints defense, while a lot of people have been hating on them this year, I think they're a lot better than people like to think. If we'd like to go to the sides tab here at the top, obviously the Saints are 0-4. Giants win a big one last week versus the Chargers. Yes, the Saints defense has given up 44 to the Seattle Seahawks and 31 to the Buffalo Bills. But that game versus San Francisco and Arizona at home show me that at home this Saints team is fired up and motivated to play. Meanwhile, the Giants on the road have not looked that great. Now, they had that 37 versus Dallas. That's a Dallas defense that's bottom 5 in the league. Meanwhile, you've got the Commanders who held them to 6 points. With Jackson Dart, they scored 21 at home last week. Like I said, I think the game script is out. The Saints are going to be putting a lot more pressure on the backfield there with New York. We'll see what comes to fruition there. But the props that I like have nothing to do with this game script. So let's go to anytime touchdowns first. So the touchdown tabs here at the top. Yep, that's right. And let's hop right into the first one that I like. That's Theo Johnson, anytime touchdown, plus 430. If we could scroll down just a little bit. The Saints have given up a fair amount of receiving touchdowns to tight ends. I think 2 so far this year. Theo Johnson for the Giants is second or tied for first in red zone target share. And he has at plus 430. Now, last week, I think he got that gimmick touchdown versus the Chargers. And I definitely think that he is somebody that has a lot of value at plus 430. He is a guy that is looking like a significant red zone threat for the Giants. And I just believe that when his number is called, he's going to answer the call. When you look at the rest of this Giants offense, now that Malik Nabers is confirmed out for the rest of the season, I think the only 2 guys that I consider serious red zone threats are Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and then, of course, Theo Johnson in the pass game. Now, Tyrone Tracy Jr. is out for this game, I believe, or doubtful at the least. Cam Scatabo, anytime touchdown, minus 115. I don't hate that. But if we could scroll back up just a little bit here and talk about the Saints' run defense has not been horrific, but it hasn't been great. I don't mind him at minus 115 at all. I just like the plus 430 play because I think it brings a lot of value. Now, if we could scroll down to the Saints side of the football and talk about let's look at the anytime touchdown for Keandre Miller. Plus 550. He got a significant increase in touches last week. I know that his number is only sitting at 31.5% or 31.3% of the red zone rush there, but he got a significant boost last week. I think that number was sitting at around 12.5%. So we're seeing a dramatic increase, damn near a triple in his red zone run share there at 31%. I definitely think the Saints are going to start leaning on him more as Alvin Kamara gets older and older. So those are my 2 anytime touchdown plays for today. I think at least one of them will go through. And since the odds there at plus 400 and plus 550 are there, I definitely think there's a tremendous amount of value. Last thing that I want to talk about specifically for this game is the player prop section looking at Theo Johnson. Let's take a look at him. There's one that I like there a lot. If we hit Theo Johnson, tight end 1. If you can't find him here, yep, there we go. Let's go ahead and look at his receiving or receptions prop here at over under 3.5. We've seen his target share pretty much on the line at 5 on average for these games. Now, on the road, he got 5 versus Dallas, 4 receptions. That's what we're really looking at here. Meanwhile, the Saints, when they play real tight ends, looking at the 49ers with Jake Tongues and Trey McBride versus the Cardinals at home, those two opposing teams were able to get the ball to their tight ends, their playmakers, at 6 catches and 4 catches at plus 150 there. The line at over under 3.5 is definitely something of significant value to me. I know that he went under both of these last games, but getting 5 targets versus the Chargers, especially with Malik Neighbors going down, I think he sees a dramatic increase in his target share percentage. He's averaging around 10% in his last, I believe, 10 games. But overall, this season, that number has gone up to around, I believe, 17 or 18%. And I fully expect it to continue to increase to about 20 to 22%. So I definitely think over 3.5 is the play here. Those are the props that I like for this game. I'm not sure what the Saints game plan is going to be in terms of stopping Jackson Dart. So we'll go ahead and move on, and we will talk about Broncos at Eagles, the next game on the tab here. The slate of early morning games is pretty thin, actually, considering that there is a Thursday night game, an early morning Sunday game, and then a Monday night football game as well. That's Chiefs versus Jags. I'll be streaming that one tomorrow as well at 5 o'clock Central Time, so be sure to tune in for that, guys. Let's talk about the Broncos versus Eagles. Now, this is an Eagles offense that has had a significant amount of issues so far this season. There have been talks about trading A.J. Brown. I definitely think those talks are semi-valid. He has caused multiple locker room issues, according to a ton of reporters. You know, he tweets out to the media and says this, that, and the other. What will the Eagles do? Will they actually feed him the rock? Or will they say, this is a team and there's no I in team? I don't know, guys. They're at home. I definitely think A.J. Brown's gets action there at home, but versus this Denver Broncos defense, who has one of the best secondaries in the league, I definitely think that it's questionable as to whether or not A.J. Brown will get action here. I see Hefty Lefties in the chat here. Hello, my friend. Welcome into the stream. He's shouting out the Browns. Hey, man, go Browns. We can see them win some more upset games like they did versus the Packers a couple weeks ago. I'd be excited to see that. But the props that I'm going to be talking about here so far for the Broncos at Eagles, let's go to the player prop section. I've got a few actually there that I like so far. First up, we've got R.J. Harvey, running back 1 for the Broncos. There he is. He has seen a significant amount of increase here on his rushing yards. As a matter of fact, I made a mistake, guys. Not R.J. Harvey. I deeply apologize. It's going to be Dobbins there above, Dobbins. That's who I like so far in this game. His rushing prop is at 53.5. You can actually buy that down. You can actually buy that down to 47.5. But right now at 51.5, that's definitely one that I like. We did see R.J. Harvey, I believe, get an increase in rush attempts last week, but that was a blowout win versus the Bengals where he got those rush attempts late in the game. As we can see here, J.K. Dobbins is still getting as many touches as he's gotten all season. 16 to start the year, 14 versus the Colts. We have just 11 versus the Chargers, but that was a Chargers game that the Broncos went down big to start, so they had to stop running the football. But then versus the Bengals, where the run was succeeding at a tremendous level, he gets 16 carries for 101 yards. Now, he did end up starting to roll there later in that game, but I definitely think he continues to get his 13, 14 touches a game. And at 51.5, that's only about 4.3 yards per carry. That's something that he has well eclipsed in the vast majority of these games. So that's why I like his over 51.5. You could, like I said, buy that down to 47.5. Now, moving on and talking about the next player prop. Appreciate the compliment, by the way, Hefty Lefty. Good stuff out there from you as well. Best of luck today. It is a great day to be alive. So let's go ahead and talk about Evan Ingram. moving on to the tight end prop here for the Denver Broncos. Now, he's been a up and down player here for the Broncos so far this season. As you can see here, he receives a consistent 17 to 19% of the target share in the games where the Broncos are winning. Like you can see here versus the Titans and the Bengals, he gets 4 targets and 7 targets, 3 and 4 catches. I definitely think he's becoming more and more healthy. The issue with him was in that game versus the Colts, I believe he got injured. He missed the next week, and so I definitely think that he is a focal point of this Broncos offense that's been struggling so far this season. And on the road versus the Eagles, quarterbacks look to target their tight ends. Sometimes it doesn't work. The Rams didn't do it at all with Tyler Higbee, who I also believe got injured during that game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers do not have a great tight end target right now, but Travis Kelce, of course, kind of on par with where Evan Ingram is at right now in his career. 6 targets, 4 catches, and Jake Ferguson, 6 targets, 5 catches. I'm actually going to take an alt line here for this game. Evan Ingram's line sits at 2.5 minus 145. His line at 3.5 though is plus money, and I definitely think he is going to go over that 3.5 there. As you could see when he was with Jacksonville last year, he went well over those 3.5. That 3.5 line. I think every single game that we could see here when he was with the Jags last season. But he's also gone over that last game versus the Bengals where he received 7 targets. I believe that's his floor there at 3 catches. His ceiling goes all the way up to 5, 6, and even 7 catches. So I'm definitely a fan of that right there. I see D is in the chat. Hello, D. Welcome in, my friend. Good luck today as well. It's going to be a great Sunday. Let's go ahead and talk about my next player prop, and that's Dallas Goedert. And by the way, guys, shout out to my wife who is managing the doinksports.com website. She's doing a great job so far. I am on the road in a hotel in Louisiana, and she is back in our home in Texas. So good stuff to my wife, Megan. She's doing a great job so far. Let's talk about Dallas Goedert. His receiving line down here at 33.5, in my opinion, is really low. When Jalen Hurts is looking for a bailout guy, he goes to Dallas Goedert. And this Denver secondary is elite, and I definitely think they're going to try to slow down Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown today, and that's where Dallas Goedert comes into play. Looking at the Chargers and the Colts game, where Tyler Warren receives 7 targets, 4 catches, and 79 yards. That is kind of the stat line that I'm thinking here for Dallas Goedert today, but we'll play it safe. Like I said, you can buy that line down to 31.5. I found all of these last night using the Doink Sports website, guys. Be sure to check it out for yourselves, doinksports.com. You can find all of this action here. I believe some of the big games are for free here. And you can look at this yourselves, doinksports.com. Use my code if you'd like to make a purchase. That's PLIZONT, and that's for 25% off of any purchase of your choosing. So be sure to check out that. Like I said, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts bailout option, especially on third down. And this Broncos defense has been slightly suspect to good tight ends so far this season. I definitely think that line at 31.5 is really low for a star like Dallas Goedert. So that's going to be my 3 player props. Let's go to the touchdown section here. I do indeed try to post these in the premium Discord. I will actually try to get these into you before the games start today at noon Central Time. Like I said, Hefty Lefty earlier, just a few minutes ago, I'm on the road. I'm traveling for some work right now. So if I can, I'll throw them in there. But if I can't, I'll be sure to try to do that for tomorrow and Thursday night football as well. So let's talk about anytime touchdowns. One of the lines that are really low, if we can scroll down to the Eagles section below, we see here that Jalen Hurts right now is only at minus 132 for an anytime touchdown. I definitely think that is going to go over. Now, in terms of looking at the Broncos defense, the weakest point in their touchdowns allowed on the ground is against quarterbacks. So I definitely think that that is going to be something of value there. Hurts at minus 132 is actually nuts to me. I believe when you look at the major books, guys, you see that he is sitting at around minus 140, maybe minus 150 still. A great play, in my opinion. Hurts shares half of those red zone carries with Saquon Barkley. The tush push, of course, is a major factor of the Eagles' red zone game, especially when they get down there on the one. So even without that, I think Hurts as a scrambling option is good enough. But what really factors into this is the fact that Hurts already has, I believe, 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. And anytime they get down into the red zone, he's a major threat. So that's why I like it minus 132. I also like Saquon, but what worries me is, one, he's a minus play, so minus 136, and the Broncos so far have been pretty damn good against running backs in the run game. They have only allowed 1 rushing touchdown to running backs so far this season. They have allowed 1 to quarterbacks, but obviously those two things are massively different. So with that being said, I definitely think Hurts is the play here, even though Barkley right there with him is at minus 136. If you want to take both, be my guest. But those are my official picks for this game. I believe we can talk about three. Oh, no, I've got 4 more games on the slate here. So let's move on down and let's talk about the next game on the list, and that's Dolphins at Panthers. Now, this is a game that I am super interested to see. The Panthers coming off a tough loss. Meanwhile, the Dolphins finally getting into the win column on Monday Night Football versus the Jets. Their defense was able to create a couple of turnovers, I believe, and that's why the Dolphins were able to succeed. Meanwhile, the Panthers, man, it was trouble last week. If we can go to the sides tab real quick and take a look at that for just a second. They lose a brutal blowout on the road last week versus the Patriots, but at home so far this season, they've only played 1 game. It was versus the Falcons, and they won that game handily. They pitched a shutout, 30-0. Meanwhile, the Dolphins on the road, blown out by the Colts, and then they competed, in my opinion, versus the Bills. It seems like the Dolphins are moving towards get right territory. Tyreek Hill goes down with that disgusting knee injury last week. He's obviously out for the rest of the season. But looking at this Dolphins offense, I thought they ran it pretty well, or Tua ran it pretty efficiently, which is something we have not seen so far this season. Let's find out what this Dolphins team is made of today. Now, the defense, if we can go to the team props section real quick, this is going to be the first play that I want to talk about. Moving down to the Panthers section of this, let's look at the Dolphins defense so far this year. They've let up 33 to the Colts, 33 to the Patriots, 31 to the Bills, and then versus the Jets, they only allowed 21. Now, that was due to some major turnovers. Now, some major injury news for this game. The Panthers are going to be without Chuba Hubbard for this game. To me, it doesn't make much of a difference. The run game wasn't great for the Panthers so far this season. I think Rico Dowdle can step in, who was a starter last year for Dallas, and be just as good. So, with that being said, I definitely think the Panthers here are the play to go. Their line is at 21.5. Buy it up to 23.5. I think versus this Dolphins defense, who has not shown me a lot of promise, they're going to be a team that gets the job done on offense. I am not a Bryce Young believer. I am, on the other hand, a believer that at home, The Panthers are significantly better than they are on the road. This Dolphins pass rush has been pretty much non-existent all season long. And Bryce Young, that's where he struggles. He struggles against getting a ton of pressure in his face. He doesn't have the size or, in my opinion, the athleticism like a Kyler Murray to escape the pocket and succeed. But without that pressure, he does a phenomenal job in this new Panthers offense with Dave Canales at the helm. And so I definitely think it's worth it to take the Panthers over 23.5 points here. I know that line sounds really high, but taking a look at the two suspect defenses that the Panthers have played so far this season, the Cardinals on the road where they scored 22, and then the Falcons at home where they scored 30. Those are the lines that I really like today. Meanwhile, the Dolphins on the road are giving up over 30 points per game. That's why I like both of these, or just this prop in particular. Let's look at an anytime touchdown play if we can go to that tab real quick. Now, there is a Dolphin that I do like today, and that's Devon Achane, who has an anytime touchdown line at -129. The Panthers are allowing a fair amount of run game here, or rushing yards allowed to running backs. They're 26 in the league at 110 yards per game. They've given up 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, and Devon Achane, who is receiving 50% of the red zone run share, and then I believe he also gets a fair amount in the pass game as well. I am for certain that he will bust out a big run today. The question is whether or not that will be in the end zone. I definitely think that this is going to be a line worthy of taking at -129. So look at that prop for yourselves and be sure to check it out. I definitely think it's a worthy prop to take there, -129. He is the major red zone rush threat. And I think with Tyreek Hill out, this Dolphins passing game doesn't look nearly as threatening. Now, Darren Waller came back last week, scored 2 touchdowns for the Dolphins. Will he do that again, guys? Absolutely not. Wish I would have called that, by the way. I had Darren Waller over his receptions and over his yards, but did I expect him to get in the end zone twice? Absolutely not. So let's move on and talk about player props. If we want to search up the backup running back for the Panthers, his name is Trevor Etienne. I looked that up by his first name, Trevor. There we go. Perfect. Last week, as Chuba Hubbard went down, Trevor got more carries, 7 carries for 33 yards. He is the official RB2 for today, and his rushing prop is sitting at 20.5. Guys, I bought that up to 24.5 to get some plus money here. The Dolphins' run defense is not great, as you can see, versus the Colts. I believe that's DJ Giddens and a blowout, 12 carries, 41 yards. Travion Henderson, 5 carries, 27 yards. I think if Trevor Etienne can get 5 carries, we will definitely see him approach that 20 line. And I think he's going to go for even more than that. Rico Dowdle will be the starter for today. But in terms of him being like the solidified RB1 and getting 16, 17, 18 carries today, I just don't necessarily see that. I think that they're going to try to figure out what they've got with their young prospect in Trevor Etienne at the running back position. That's going to be a play of value here for me today. So the 3 plays that I have are Panthers over 23.5 points, Devon Achane, anytime touchdown, and last but certainly not least, Trevor Etienne over 24.5 rushing yards. Those most of those I believe are alt plays. So 2 of the 3 are alt plays. Let's go ahead and talk about the next game on the tab, which is Raiders versus Colts. This is a game that I thought was a little tough to pick, in my opinion. There are a couple plays that I like here, but not any really that I love. So I just have one play for you guys. It's a plus money play under the player props section. By the way, if you guys have any of your favorite picks that you want to drop in the chat, I'd love to take a look at them. I see that we've got a fair amount of viewers in here now. So good morning, everyone. We're looking at doinksports.com here. Be sure to check it out for yourselves. The one prop that I want to talk about here is Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, and I'll actually talk about this game for just a minute here because these teams both are, in my opinion, slightly underrated and slightly overrated. Now, the Raiders, in my opinion, have been a very overrated team so far this season, especially before the season began. Pete Carroll becoming the head coach there. I think a lot of people kind of looked at him like Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers last year. They bought that the Raiders were going to be a good team. They traded for Geno Smith in the offseason. The offense has looked horrific in 4 games so far this year. Geno, I think, has thrown 7 interceptions. Horrific play. He had 2 games with 3+ interceptions. He might be on the verge of getting benched if he has another game like that versus the Colts. Now, flipping the Colts script here, I think that the Colts here are extremely underrated. I was a massive low buyer or low seller, I guess, of Daniel Jones and this offense. They have been unbelievably great so far this season. They blew out the Dolphins. They got a tough road win early on this year. Or actually, I think the win was at home versus the Broncos. But I have been thoroughly surprised by what this Colts team has done this season. And the prop that I want to look at here is Michael Pittman Jr., who has gotten a fair amount of the target share so far this year and is somebody that I think is going to have a breakout season. As we can see here versus the Dolphins, 8 targets, 6 receptions. Broncos, 5 targets, 4 receptions. Titans, 6 targets, 6 receptions. Now, going back even into last year, thinking about Shane Steichen and this Colts offense, they had a ton of faith in Michael Pittman, and I think they're finally back to that full faith there. 10 targets, 5 catches there for Michael Pittman last week versus the Colts in a tough loss. They had the lead for the majority of the game, but Matthew Stafford, of course, late in the fourth quarter is able to come back and take care of business. Had that busted big play to Tutu Atwell for 88 yards last week. But I digress. Let's get back to Michael Pittman. On the road, it seems that they rely on him a lot more. But at home last year versus the Jags, 10 targets, 6 receptions. So, one moment. Almost sneezed there. Might sneeze in just a second. Let's continue. Over 5.5 is my alt prop here. I think that the Colts offense becomes more and more dependent on Pittman as the season goes on. Now, looking at the Raiders defense against wide receiver ones, they really haven't played a prominent one since week 1. I think that's Stephon Diggs there. Maybe that's Keyshawn Butte as well. But the Chargers have not played a significant wide receiver 1 threat. I mean, the Raiders have not played a significant wide receiver 1 threat so far this season. Now, Ladd McConkey is, or at least was, but no longer the main guy with this Chargers offense. That's a receiver core by committee with him, Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen. I do not believe that's the case here for the Indianapolis Colts. Josh Downs as wide receiver 2. Alec Pierce gets there in the mix. He's dealt with a couple of knick-knack injuries so far this year, but the one guy that's been very consistent is Michael Pittman. 3 touchdowns as well on the season. I definitely think over 5.5 is the prop to go with. That's my one for this game. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about this Buccaneers versus Seahawks game, the next game on the tab. We've only got 2 more games to cover here, guys, and then we'll do a full recap. So let's talk about player props first. Actually, let's go to the injuries tab. I apologize. Let's go to the injuries tab real quick, and we'll talk about one significant injury this game. If we can scroll down just a little bit. Well, number one, there are a ton of Seattle Seahawks defenders that are out. Devon Witherspoon, Julian Love, DeMarcus Lawrence, they're all out for this game. Meanwhile, looking at the Buccaneers, this to me is kind of chalking up to be a low scoring slot fest on the road for the Buccaneers versus the Seahawks. I don't necessarily have a great prop here as far as lines go, sides, over under, team props. It's hard to judge what's going to go down in this game. The one player prop that I do like, though, is Rachaad White over 50.5, and that's due to the fact that Bucky Irving, as you just saw on the injuries tab, is out for this game. So if we can scroll down here, there he is, Rachaad White, and we can chalk this up. His line is sitting at 14.5, and we see last year when he actually touches the ball 14 plus times, he goes well over that line. And then as you compare that with more than 15 rush attempts against the Seahawks defense, the vast majority of the time they're going over that 50.5 line. I think that's a really solid one, to say the least. Now, Sean Tucker today, the rookie out of, I believe, Illinois, or maybe he's the second-year player out of Illinois, is going to be RB2 there. He has gotten little to no work so far this year for the Buccaneers. So I definitely think in a spot on the road, Rachaad White is going to be the bell cow back. And that's why I think over 50.5 is a good prop to take there. I don't think the Seahawks are going to pull away in this game. The Buccaneers defense has been extremely stout this season. Now, while I do think there's a lot of concern with this Buccaneers offense with Mike Evans being out and Bucky Irving being out, I think that they can play complementary football. Baker Mayfield has been playing at a damn near MVP level so far this season. This is action between two well-coached 3-1 teams that have really good wins at home and gutsy wins on the road. So Rachaad White is the one player prop that I like this game. Let's look at anytime touchdowns now. There's two that I think have a tremendous amount of value. Number one is Cade Otton. As you can see here, he's plus 500 plus. You could probably find him on a major book for plus, I believe, plus 450, plus 460. I definitely think that this is going to be a guy that gets in the end zone eventually. If we could scroll down just a little bit more, not that far, let's look at Cade Otton. He's only receiving 7% of the red zone target share, but as we can see, the Seahawks defense so far this year has been relatively weak versus tight ends. They're allowing the 29th most touchdowns to tight ends this season, the 23rd most yards allowed. So I definitely think Cade Otton will be a bigger part of the Buccaneers offense today than he has so far this season. That's why I like his value there at plus 500. As you can see here, Rachaad White down at plus 145. Will he get in the end zone, or will the Buccaneers be throwing the ball a ton? That's yet to be seen. As you can see, Rachaad White already was only receiving 11% of the red zone target share in the run game. That's not something to write home about. So if we could scroll on down to the Seahawks section, one more anytime touchdown prop that I like today, and that's Cooper Kupp plus 295. Now, Kupp is only receiving 18% of the red zone target share. He's yet to get a touchdown on the season. And that's what I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to try to solve today. They're going to try to get Cooper Kupp more involved. Jackson Smith-Njigba has been phenomenal for the Seahawks so far this season. I think all the eyes are going to be on JSN this game. So over touchdown here, anytime touchdown for Cooper Kupp at plus 295. I think not a value there. As you can see, Jackson Smith-Njigba is down at 135, and I believe he's only caught one touchdown out of the 3 games he's played so far this season. Elijah Arroyo, I believe, is his last name, and how you pronounce that, I could be butchering it, but he's been a major factor in the red zone target share so far this season, but also another guy that has failed to catch a touchdown. Here's the thing. The Seahawks this season are not efficient in the red zone so far. They've scored on several big plays this season. I think that gets solved today at home. They're a very well-coached team. Their offense has been churning at a fairly efficient level. And so I think Cooper Kupp is the value play here at plus 295. We're going to move on, and we're going to talk about, I believe, let's see here. We're going to talk about the Cardinals Titans game now before we get into a end of game or end of stream recap here. We got a couple more minutes to talk. There are three alt plays that I like in this game, player props wise, and then that's going to be it. First up, I think he's right there at the top, right there, Cam Ward, as you can see. Versus the Colts, I thought he played pretty well. That was a game that ended up being a little bit of a blowout, but this Cardinals defense against the pass has been extremely weak. They have not been good against the pass. Budda Baker is more of a run stopper. He's not somebody that is elite in pass coverage. The Cardinals secondary has been extremely banged up. I don't believe they're 100% healthy. And Cam Ward, in my opinion, has been throwing the ball very well this season. Pass catchers just have not been able to reel him in. Calvin Ridley, I believe, is top 5 in the league in drops. But in my opinion, he's a much better receiver than that. He will get that solved eventually, and I think that happens today. So alt play wise, you don't even have to go down to this tab here. I'm going to pair these two together. Cam Ward over 199.5 pass yards. That's an alt play there. His line is presently at 180.5. I think he goes significantly over that. As you can see, he did it versus the Colts. This Cardinals defense, as you can see, is soft against the pass. And even if that happens, the Cardinals are 7.5-point favorites. I think Vegas and everybody else thinks that the Cardinals are going to win this game comfortably. And if that's the case, the Titans are going to be forced to pass more often than not. So Cam Ward over 199.5 passing yards. He also gets another receiving weapon back from injury off the IR. Tajay Spears is going to be playing in this game. And before we move on to our next prop, Calvin Ridley plus money play over 3.5 receptions. Like I said, one of the biggest drop guys in the league, but he has been way better than that this season. I think he gets that solved today. Those are the two props that I like for the Titans. And then last but certainly not least, before we get into a little bit of a recap here, Marvin Harrison over 59.5 yards. Another alt play today. Marvin Harrison, just like Calvin Ridley, has had a case of the yips. If we could scroll down to him real quick, Marvin Harrison Jr., the son of course, wide receiver great Marvin Harrison, Hall of Famer. He had 6 catches for 66 yards last week. I definitely think this Cardinals receiving core relies on him being the guy. And so far, this Titans defense has been fairly weak against wide receiver ones this year. 8 catches goes to Puka Nacua, of course, best wide receiver in the league right now. Michael Pittman had 6 catches for 73 yards. Alt line here, I like Marvin Harrison Jr. over 59.5. In 2 games so far this year, he's gone well over that. His line sits at 52.5. If you want to take that, be my guest. But I love plus money plays. I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. had his get right game last week, caught that touchdown versus Seattle. 6 catches, 66 yards. That was phenomenal. And so I think over 59.5 at home again. The Cardinals offense is getting more and more comfortable. So those are my 3 plays for the game. So let's recap here. We don't have to move off this tab. We could just talk real quick as we close out this stream. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, be sure to check out doinksports.com for yourself. I found all these plays using the website. Use my code, as you can see here at the bottom. Get 25% off. Use code Plizont. That's Plizont. You can also find me on any and all social medias. That's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, at Plizont. I talk NBA, college football, and the NFL, as you can clearly see here. So, plays for the day. Cam Ward over 199.5 passing yards, Calvin Ridley over 3.5 receptions, and Marvin Harrison Jr. over 59.5 yards in this game. Moving on, Tampa Bay over 50.5 rush yards for Rachaad White. Cade Otton, anytime touchdown. Cooper Kupp, anytime touchdown. Let's move on and let's talk about Raiders at Colts. Michael Pittman over 5.5 receptions. Raiders over 20.5. Or I'm sorry, that's not an official play. The only play in this Colts Raiders game is Michael Pittman over 5.5 receptions. Moving on, we've got Dolphins at Panthers. Trevor Etienne, alt line, over 24.5 rushing yards. Devon Achane, anytime touchdown. And Panthers, alt line, over 23.5 team prop points there. Then Broncos versus Eagles. We've got DK or oh man, I'm blanking on his name. J.K. Dobbins. There we go. J.K. Dobbins over 47.5 rush yards. I bought that down. Evan Ingram over 3.5 receptions. Dallas Goedert bought that down over 31.5 receiving yards. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. And then we're moving into Giants Saints. Theo Johnson anytime touchdown. Keandre Miller anytime touchdown. Theo Johnson over 3.5 receptions on the road here for Jackson Dart. Oh, I missed one for the Texans Ravens, but I'll have to recap it quickly here. Xavier Hutchinson over 13.5 receiving yards. Justice Hill over 2.5 catches. The Texans over 23.5 points. Ravens under 18.5 points. Texans minus 2.5 in this game. A Woody Marks anytime touchdown. And then I think we've got one more. Yep, that's Cowboys at Jets. Justin Fields, anytime touchdown. Javonte Williams, anytime touchdown. Jets over 23.5 points. Justin Fields over, I believe, 209 passing yards. And then Garrett Wilson over 65.5 receiving yards. Those are all the plays for today. I have to blast now, you guys. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We're going to do a Monday night stream tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central, so thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.